The sky was bruised with an angry red, as if the heavens themselves were weeping. And then it happened. The earth split open, sending a shudder through Pompeii that was not of this world. The people tumbled out of their beds, stumbling into the streets, their linen clothes tangled around, bare feet, faces pale in the eerie glow that emanated from Mount Vesuvius, which now reared up in the distance, belching fire and brimstone. A suffocating blanket of ash choked the city, blotting out the sun and plunging the once vibrant streets into a nightmarish twilight. People ran for the hills, some falling victim to the invisible menace that seeped from the cracks in the earth, others collapsing in heaps, their bodies contorted in silent screams as they were swallowed whole by the relentless grey tide. Amidst this unfolding apocalypse, 3 Pompeians found themselves suspended between life and death, their fates intertwined in a macabre dance of fate and free will, each grappling with the imminence of their demise in ways both tragic and profound. Lucius, a wealthy merchant with a conscience, hurried along the deserted Via Stabiana, clutching a small leather bag close to his chest. His mind reeled at the sight before him, the fertile fields he had cultivated with such care now reduced to a desolate moonscape. He could hear the screams of those left behind, their voices echoing in the grey expanse like tormented souls. But there was no time to dwell on the horror of it all. Lucius had heard the stories of Herculaneum, the coastal city swallowed whole by the sea, and he knew he had to escape while there was still time. He stumbled upon a group of soldiers, their armor dulled by the ash, their faces etched with grim determination. They formed a ragged line, offering a semblance of protection against the chaos that surrounded them. With a quick nod of thanks, Lucius joined their ranks, hoping their numbers would deter the worst of the calamity. But even as he walked, he couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that he was running out of time. Each step took him further away from his home, his beloved wife, his children, all sacrificed at the altar of his own making. He glanced back at Pompeii, its silhouette marred by the dark plume that billowed into the sky, and felt a surge of guilt. He had built his fortune on the trade of garum, a fermented fish sauce, and in doing so, had exploited the very people who suffered most from the recent earthquakes. Now their suffering had become his own, and he cursed his inability to do more. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the city, Valeria, a priestess of the cult of Isis, knelt amidst the crumbling remains of the temple. The once proud columns lay in disarray, their intricate carvings buried under a layer of ash. Around her, broken statues of the Egyptian goddess stared vacantly at the leaden sky, their silent pleas for mercy unanswered. She closed her eyes, reaching out to the one deity who still offered her solace. For years, Valeria had sought refuge in the rituals of the cult, finding a semblance of peace in the comforting embrace of the eternal mysteries. But today, as the weight of the approaching doom bore down on her, even Isis seemed distant. She remembered the cryptic warnings in the scrolls she had once stolen from the Oracle of Delphi, her heart sinking as the words echoed in her mind. She had scoffed at them then, dismissing them as mere superstition, but now their chilling predictions seemed all too real. Trapped in a labyrinth of her own making, she realized that there was no escape from the wrath of the gods. Far below, in the shadow of Vesuvius, Caius, a young slave, shielded a small girl with his own body, sheltering her from the falling debris. The 9-year-old Atria had been the daughter of a client, a young mother whose life had been cut short by the chaos of the eruption. In the brief moments before the darkness had descended, she entrusted Caius with the child, whispering her name over and over again, as if to imprint it on his memory. And he hadn't failed her. Despite the terror that clawed at his throat, he had gathered the child in his arms and raced for the hills. The tremors had grown increasingly violent, and he knew that the only way to protect Atria was to seek higher ground. Now, huddled beneath a rocky outcrop, he looked down at the child. Her breathing was shallow, her face streaked with ash and tears. As he brushed a stray lock of hair from her forehead, he saw a flicker of recognition in her wide, frightened eyes. In that instant, something shifted within him. The years of servitude, the pain, the humiliation, it all faded away, replaced by a fierce determination to keep her alive. He had endured unspeakable hardships since being captured from his Germanic tribe at age 10, branded and sold into slavery. He had toiled under the scorching sun, enduring the jeers and lashes of his masters, but through it all, he had held on to his humanity, nurturing the embers of hope that refused to be extinguished. And now, gazing at Atria, he knew that his purpose had been revealed. If he could save her, perhaps there was still good left in this world. Their paths collided on the slope of a low hill overlooking the valley. Lucius, weary and covered in ash, collapsed beside a crumbling wall, his eyes fixed on the ever-growing cloud of smoke. He felt a tap on his shoulder and turned to see Caius standing before him, his youthful face creased with concern. Lucius looked down at the child in Caius's arms, and a wave of protectiveness washed over him. In that moment, he saw not a slave, but a fellow human being bound by the same fate. Without hesitation, he offered what little water he had left and a piece of bread from his satchel. Caius hesitated, his ingrained deference to his master evident in his posture, but he accepted the proffered items, his gaze unwavering. Lucius, moved by the quiet dignity of the slave, extended a hand in camaraderie, and when Caius looked up, their eyes met, bridging the chasm of their different worlds. They sat in companionable silence for a time, the only sound the mournful cry of a lone bird circling overhead. Suddenly, Caius stood, his resolve hardening. He said, "We must go," placing the child down, who promptly began to sob. Lucius, understanding the futility of their situation, rose, brushing ash from his clothes. He slung his bag over his shoulder, and together they started up the hill, two men united in their purpose, though neither knew where it would lead. Valeria emerged from the temple, her white robes a stark contrast against the encroaching darkness. She had made a decision, driven by her unwavering faith in the teachings of Isis. She would stay behind, tending to those who could not flee, offering solace to the dying. She made her way through the deserted streets, the weight of her choice pressing down on her. As the first tendrils of ash touched her skin, she felt a sense of calm. She had faced worse, having survived the initial tremors of the '62 earthquake that had shaken Pompeii to its core. During those harrowing moments, she had sought refuge in the temple, finding strength in the steadfast presence of the statues of Isis. Now, as the second blow approached, she knew that there was no escaping the inevitable. She stopped in the marketplace, kneeling beside a shattered fountain, the water long since drained away, leaving only a gaping void. Gazing up at the darkening sky, she whispered a prayer to the goddess, seeking guidance in her final moments. Their paths converged at the base of a large fig tree, its leaves coated in a fine layer of ash. Lucius, his face haggard with fatigue, collapsed against the trunk, his eyes wide with dawning realization. Beside him, Caius, his frame rigid with tension, cradled the whimpering child, and emerging from the shadows, Valeria, her steps slow and measured, joined them, her presence a beacon of calm in the gathering storm. Their eyes met, and in that silent exchange, a bond was forged. Lucius, overcome with emotion, embraced the slave who had shown him such courage, and as the tremors grew more intense, they huddled together, sharing what little food and water they had left, preparing to face the end. But in the midst of their shared fate, a glimmer of hope appeared. Across the valley, a light flickered in the distance. It was faint, almost imperceptible, yet it offered a tantalizing possibility, a chance for survival. Hope surged through Lucius, and with renewed determination, he helped Caius carry the child toward the light. Leaving the fig tree behind, they ventured into the swirling ash, their silhouettes etched against the darkening sky, their steps echoing the relentless beat of their hearts. And then the earth split open, and the fire came, consuming everything in its path. Now, dear audience, the tale of these three Pompeians is merely a fragment of the grand tapestry that was unfurled on that fateful day. For within the suffocating grip of the ash cloud, countless lives were suspended, each as vivid and vital as any epic poem. There were lovers entwined on marble balconies, merchants robbed of their last coins, children holding on to the skirts of their mothers, their laughter silenced forever. Every cough, a rasping echo of mortality, every gasp for breath, a testament to the indomitable spirit of man in the face of annihilation. The tragedy of Pompeii is not merely a historical footnote, it's a mirror held up to the fragility of human existence, a reminder that even in the darkest times, stories of love, courage, and resilience continue to burn bright. So let us remember the nameless multitude, the Pompeians who breathed life into this city, whose dreams and aspirations turned to ash, but whose memories live on in the annals of history. Let their story be a beacon, urging us to cherish every moment, to nurture our bonds and to confront adversity with grace. For in the grand narrative of life, it's the ordinary moments that truly shine. Amid the oppressive haze of August 24th's false dawn, where Pompeii's streets stirred with vendors, calls echoing hollowly like laments from underworld depths, under skies streaked with unnatural crimson, Lucius awoke. He was sweating, his dreams plagued by visions of his villa engulfed in flames, his wealth melting like wax idols, his conflicted soul urging flight, yet chained by denial's grip, doomed to delay that sealed his end. As roosters crowed erratically, the ground shuddered violently, tiles cascading from roofs like tears from shattered urns. Citizens emerged in disarray, their faces pale masks of confusion amid dust clouds rising like vengeful spirits. Valeria, the priestess, roused from trance in the temple, rushed to the altar where candles had extinguished themselves. She relit them with trembling hands, her faith warring against terror as incense failed to mask the acrid tang seeping from earth cracks. Her tragic path unfolding in frantic prayers that echoed unanswered. Caius, a young slave, bolting from his quarters, aided a fallen elder, the old man's eyes bulging in panic as he babbled of God's wrath. The boy's resentment toward the elder's piety yielding to compassion's fleeting warmth, but his fate inexorably drawing him toward sacrificial heroism. By mid-morning, a massive plume erupted from Vesuvius, towering like a colossal pine of smoke and fire. Citizens froze in forums, their gazes upward in collective horror, Lucius among them. The merchant's pragmatic dismissal of earlier tremors crumbling as the column twisted grotesquely, imprinting eternal dread. The mountain birthing a monster, ash began to flutter like blackened snowflakes on upturned faces. Valeria, summoning devotees, interpreted the plume as Isis' judgment, her voice breaking in hymns that clashed with screams. As visions assaulted her of buried temples, priests' forms petrified in prayer, the haunting scene of her hands clutching a crumbling statue as shadows lengthened prematurely. Caius, racing through throngs, witnessed animals in frenzy, dogs gnawing chains, birds plummeting dead from skies, their chaos mirroring his inner turmoil. A horse bolted wild-eyed, trampling a child. Blood pooled in gutters like sacrificial libations, a tableau frozen in brutality's grip. As ash thickened, blanketing streets in grey pallor, Lucius barricaded his villa, hoarding provisions while servants fled, his greed conflicting with paternal urges toward a bastard son hidden in the household, doomed to abandon him in panic's throes. The air grew stifling, sulfur-choking breaths like infernal breath, Valeria leading a procession toward the gates, her followers' faces smeared with soot like mourners in ash. One woman collapsed, convulsing, foaming at mouth as if possessed, the image seared in memory, her body arching in agony amid falling pumice, eyes rolling white in ecstatic horror. Caius, seeking his master, Lucius, encountered hallucinations. Shadowy figures beckoned from alleys, whispers promising escape yet leading to dead ends, his young mind fracturing under the onslaught, conflicted between loyalty and survival's instinct. By afternoon, pumice rained like divine hail, roofs groaning under weight. Lucius witnessed a neighbor's home collapse, screams muffled in rubble, the merchant's hands bloodied, digging futilely, his face contorted in futile rage against gods, he scorned. Valeria, reaching the harbor, beheld ships tossing in swells, stirred by quakes, waves lapping black with ash, a sailor raving of sea monsters rising, his form leaping overboard into foam-churned abyss, a poignant emblem of madness, plunged. Caius, reunited briefly with Lucius, urged flight, but the merchant's hesitation, clinging to treasures, delayed them. The boy's pleas echoing in the gloom, as skies darkened to midnight hue, visions intensified, apparitions of deceased kin materialized in ash veils, accusing fingers pointed, Lucius recoiling from his mother's ghostly form, her eyes hollow pits of reproach, the scene seared in memory like embers on flesh. Valeria, boarding a vessel, felt the mountains roar like thunderous judgment, her faith shattering as waves claimed companions, bodies swirling in currents like leaves in an autumn gale. The final hours loomed, pyroclastic surges brewed unseen, the city a canvas of despair, where human frailty met nature's fury. And so the drama of Pompeii unfolded, a tragedy of dust and doom, where lives intertwined in the shadow of Vesuvius' wrath, in the suffocating twilight of Pompeii's last breaths, where ash blanketed forums like shrouds over lifeless forms, under a sky choked with embers glowing like infernal stars. Lucius fled his collapsing villa, gold pouches weighing him like sins unconfessed, his avarice clashing with regret's flood as he abandoned servants to fate's merciless hand, doomed to suffocation in a street's embrace. The surges raced down Vesuvius, scorching winds heralding doom, citizens scrambling in blind panic, their shadows fleeting across walls like souls escaping their bodies. But amidst this exodus, 3 souls etched narratives of tragedy into the annals of time, their stories converging in the shadow of impending annihilation. There was Valeria, navigating tumultuous seas, Caius, sheltering a lost infant, and Lucius, the merchant grappling with his past. Valeria, adrift on turbulent seas, clung to her ship's rail, visions of Ice's weeping blood assaulting her, her devotion crumbling under waves, assault, fated to drowning's cold clasp amid debris-strewn waters. Meanwhile, Caius, separated in chaos, shielded a lost infant, his resentment. Yielding to selfless valor, the boy's form huddling in a doorway as heat waves approached, imprinting eternal heroism his back, arched protectively, ash-coating like premature grave dust eyes, defiant yet tear-streaked. Then there was Lucius, staggering through forums, encountering looters amid ruins, their faces twisted in greed's mask, one struck down by falling masonry, body pinned beneath beam like a crucified thief, the merchant's horror mirroring his own soul's, conflicted cries lost in the roar. As the initial shock subsided, the true horror of the situation dawned on him. He had abandoned his workers, scores of men who had toiled under his harsh gaze, now trapped in the unforgiving grip of the mountain. Visions plagued him, not of flames and fury, but of these same men, their faces contorted in silent screams, their eyes accusing, their hands clawing at the suffocating ash. Each inhalation burned like hot coals in his throat, each step forward a battle against the urge to collapse. But destiny had a grim design, and the path led him to a chilling tableau. Amidst the ruins, a man lay pinned beneath a fallen beam, his face hidden under a cascade of rubble. Recognition dawned on Lucius. It was Publius, his overseer, the man he had berated, punished, and paid a pittance. And as he brushed away the ash, a glint of gold caught his eye. Publius's pouch lay open, its contents spilled, coins gleaming amidst the grime. A single coin caught Lucius's gaze, its surface marred by a worker's hammer, the other bearing the image of a scowling magistrate. One earned through toil, the other seized through authority. Were these Publius's ill-gotten gains a testament to the system they both enforced? Or was this a cruel jest, the very essence of their shared exploitation laid bare in the face of death? Overcome with despair, he sank to his knees, the coins tumbling from his grasp. Meanwhile, across the ravaged landscape, in the coastal town of Herculaneum, the first surge hit, boiling mud entombing villas, residents frozen in agony. Their forms were later unearthed as holocasts, a gloomy gallery of final poses, hands shielding faces, mouths agape in silent screams. Among them, the Elitida Taframi, once resplendent in finery, now preserved in plaster, their facades mockingly intact, while within emptiness reigned, a chilling reminder of life abruptly extinguished. But it was in Pompeii that the ash deepened, burying the weak. An elder priest, burdened by years of service, collapsed in prayer. His rosary beads spilled like futile offerings, his eyes glazing in resignation's veil. Yet even in the face of such overwhelming dread, threads of humanity persisted. A mother shielded her child, her body a barrier against the falling debris. A scribe protected scrolls, his hands tracing ancient wisdom for the last time. A charioteer braced his horses, urging them to flee, though to where, even he couldn't discern. Ordinary people transformed into heroes, a former slave, now free, aided the lame and blind, guiding them to safety. A young couple embraced, finding solace in each other's arms, a brief respite before the world turned to ash. Even stoicism found its champion. An old man stood atop a wall, observing the approaching cloud, his gaze steady, accepting his fate rather than cower. Yet some sought escape. A woman in fine garments hurried through the streets, clutching a small bag, her hurried steps betraying her desperation. A senator, ignoring the tremors beneath his feet, raced toward the coast, hoping his fleet could outpace the impending doom. A gladiator, his training instilling discipline, organized the youth, forming a semblance of order amidst the pandemonium, teaching them to navigate the treacherous terrain, to seek higher ground. Even slaves, chains dragging, sought refuge, their eyes mirroring the terror that knew no bounds. All were united in a common fate, their hopes and fears mingling in the darkening sky. Some embraced religion, others cursed the gods. Some found solace in family, others in solitude. All were destined to become part of the frozen tableau, forever encapsulated in the silent film of death. Meanwhile, at sea, Valeria fought against the waves, clinging to the mast as if it were a lifeline, her knuckles white, her muscles screaming in protest. Around her, the crew panicked, their shouts swallowed by the wind, their struggles futile against the mounting tide. Suddenly, a rogue wave struck, tossing her into the churning waters. For a moment, she was suspended. The world tilted, then pulled under. When she surfaced, gasping for breath, the ship was nowhere in sight. Panic constricted her throat. She was alone, adrift in a sea of troubles, surrounded by the wreckage of her companions. With trembling limbs, she began the arduous task of swimming towards a piece of floating debris. As she neared it, a vision assaulted her. The figure of Isis, her hands raised in supplication, her face streaked with what seemed like blood. Had the goddess forsaken her, or was this a warning? Emerging atop the debris, exhausted and shivering, she noticed a small niche in the floating wreckage, just enough to shelter her from the worst of the wind and waves. As night fell, the sky blazed with unnatural hues, mirroring the turmoil within her. Exhaustion pulled at her eyelids, but she forced herself to stay awake, battling not only the elements but also her fading faith. Images of her family flashed before her eyes, their smiles now haunting, their voices echoing in the wind. She closed her eyes, her last vision the mountain, its fiery maw devouring the horizon, before the waves claimed her, plunging her into an icy abyss. Far from the coast, Caius held the infant close, shielding its face with his tunic as the heat intensified. The boy whimpered, his cries echoing the torment in Caius's heart. They were trapped, ensnared by the relentless advance of the surges. Ash swirled around them, coating the infant, blurring Caius's vision. Was this the end, the culmination of his bitterness and regret? Heat scorched his lungs, making each breath a searing ordeal. Still, he pressed on, stumbling toward a potential haven. Suddenly, a surge overtook them, blistering hot. It enveloped them, searing their skin, stealing their breaths. Their entwined forms were petrified in the grip of the flow. a tableau of innocence and terror forever imprinted on the charred landscape. Amid the unfolding chaos, Lucius stumbled toward the city gates, gasping for breath, each step a monumental effort. Through the haze, he saw figures racing toward the exits, their faces ashen, their eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, his knees buckled. The gold pouches fell from his grasp, scattering uselessly on the ground. He collapsed, choking on fumes, his ears ringing, his head pounding. A final spasm shook his limbs, and as darkness enveloped him, his last thoughts were of the lives he had bartered for gold. His body buried mid-stride, his outstretched hand clutching only empty air. The eruptions continued through the night, surges that buried the city in silence, the distant rumble a mournful dirge. Through it all, Pliny the Elder perished in his rescue attempts. His corpulent form slumped on Stabia's shore, waves lapping feet like mocking tides. On another beach, a letter carrier sat with a bundle of missives, his efforts to deliver the last missives in vain. Among the letters was one from Pliny the Younger, recounting the horrors witnessed, his words frozen mid-sentence as the ash descended. Meanwhile, in Misenum, Pliny's nephew watched his uncle's fleet depart, never to return, leaving him with only the echo of his uncle's final letter, its edges singed, its words a testament to the unfolding tragedy. Omens had been ignored, tremors as Earth's warnings, visions as divine portents. The residents' terrors manifested in hallucinations from toxic gases, shadowy apparitions born of fear's fertile gloom. Archaeological echoes reveal the gloom, casts of families huddled, lovers entwined, dogs chained in futile barks, each a baroque lament of human fragility. The mountain slumbered anew, its secrets veiled in fertile slopes. But whispers persist of spectral residents wandering ruins, eyes hollow with unspoken warnings. Was it nature's caprice or God's retribution? The visions, fiery skies, dissolving forms lingered as premonitions from the veil, characters' fates woven in tragedy's thread, emotional depths drowning in ash's abyss, inner storms raging against oblivion's unyielding silence.